Hey, this is the next installment in my Woodburner Masonry heater retrofit video series. So in the last video, I had shown the finished thermal cob core of the masonry heater. And after that video, I put two more layers of cob / plaster onto this. The first of the two layers that I put on after that last video was a cob that included straw, and that was a pretty thick layer, and that got me very close to this final shape, but the surface texture was still a bit rough. I let that straw reinforced cob layer fully dry, and then I mixed up a final almost like a slurry or skim, it's like a slurry skim coat for the final smoothed surface here. And what I used for that slurry skim coat mix was a very fine, almost dusty sand. I did about 2 parts of a very fine dusty sand to 1 part clay. And then I threw in a couple dashes of a hydraulic lime. And then I also did a generous dollop of boiled linseed oil into that mix. And so I mixed that up thoroughly, and then I smeared that. I made it quite wet, so I added a good amount of water so that it was very smearable. And then with my hands, I smeared that final mix, that slurry, onto the fully dried straw reinforced cob layer, and I tried to get it as smooth as I could with my hands, and then I switched over to the trowel and kept smoothing with that. And then after the trowel, I moved to a wide bristled paintbrush, just an old junky paintbrush, and just went around the whole thing, blending in all the little trowel marks and little fingerprints and whatnot, until I got to this finish. Now, the only other thing I've done to this is I have impregnated that final slurried surface. After it dried, I let it dry for a couple days, and then I impregnated the whole masonry dome here with now 3 coats of boiled linseed oil. I thinned the first couple coats with a citrus oil thinner. You could use a turpentine or white spirits if you wanted to, but I just wanted my first coat of boiled linseed oil to really penetrate deeply into the multiple layers of cob that had been built up on this. And then my final layer of boiled linseed oil was just neat, not thinned at all. And so that'll be sitting more on the surface. And so that's given it just a little bit of a shine. It's still setting, still drying. The linseed oil takes multiple days to set or cure, to polymerize, to turn into a bioplastic. So that process is still ongoing, but I just wanted to show it now. The reason I decided to go with impregnating it with a boiled linseed oil was to help stabilize the surface so that there's not any dusting going on, and to kind of help consolidate the entire surface, because there was some minor sort of shrinkage cracking and things. You can see the pattern there. Those are little shrinkage cracks. So that boiled linseed oil just consolidates all of that and hardens this external layer and prevents it from dusting if you touch it. Also, once the linseed oil has polymerized, it becomes, harder, and it'll help harden the surface, like I've already mentioned, but it also remains somewhat flexible because it turns into a natural plastic. So that little bit of flexibility in that boiled linseed oil, I'm hoping will help prevent any little hairline cracks from developing once I start more actively using the masonry heater. So just show you a little closer up. So that's the wood burner there. I sealed on the right and left side of it just with cob, and then I smoothed it over on the top layer with the same slurry mix, and then heavily coated it with the boiled linseed oil as well. But yeah, it's been quite successful to be able to just seal up the gaps on either side of the stove just with the cob. I was expecting that was going to have problems with cracking, but in all the test firings I did since my last video, after I had fully smeared cob into those gaps, it hasn't cracked, so that's been great. Yeah, you can see the front lintel, this piece of slate that I used as a lintel over it. I kept that exposed. I'll probably sand that back a little bit because I got some slurry mix of the cob a little bit overlapping. So I'll clean that up a bit, and then I'm going to clean up the slate base that it's sitting on as well. As you can see, the door still opens just fine. So I can get it all the way open to there. I have easy access to get fuel into the stove. Same thing with my ash clean out tray. They both open fine. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that's turned out. The last step is just to paint it, so I'll probably paint it with a lime wash, and I'll probably mix a little bit of more linseed oil into the lime wash just to stop that from dusting off the surface and help it adhere to the cob. I'll probably give it 2 or 3 coats of a hydraulic lime-based lime wash, mostly because I like the slightly off-white color of the hydraulic limes as opposed to the pure non-hydraulic limes, which are like a brilliant white. So I just want that little bit of off-white color, which is why I'll go with probably an NHL 3.5 mixed with some water and some boiled linseed oil. And I'll put, 3 coats of that on, and hopefully that'll be it. I'll get a final video once it's all lime washed, and my final video, I'll have a fire burning in there just so we can see what it looks like with a fire actually in it. And then after that, I might make a video just explaining how well it's working, but I'll probably wait until the winter to do that, just so I know how this actually performs in the middle of a winter in the UK, and see if it accomplished my goal of being able to heat this small office space with just one fire in the morning per day, and then let the thermal mass carry me through until the end of the workday. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks a lot. Bye.